By now, you should have seen our video feature on the pothole pandemic in the UK and how garages can get involved in detecting and repairing damage caused by these crater strikes. And if you haven't seen it yet, there's a banner link at the top of this screen for you to click on. But I wanted to find out more about suspension damage and how these components can be affected by pothole strikes, as well as what garages need to look for when it comes to detecting suspension damage and offering repairs to customers. So I spent some time speaking to Alistair Mason, Technical Services Manager UK and Ireland at Schaeffler, to get his thoughts on the subject.
So how damaging can pothole strikes be to a vehicle's suspension?
So potholes can be very damaging to vehicle suspension. We can where we are, we're quite a rural area. We see a lot of the vehicles on the road around here. The suspension components will wear out, at a faster rate than they will on a car that does, say, a lot of motorway mileage. So you can see by the road conditions, they're working a lot harder. They're moving a lot more. When you think of, say, for instance, a ball joint or a bush, obviously as it's going over a bump, it's got to move, and there is resistance to it moving. That ball joint it needs to be quite tight. So obviously as it moves, a little bit of wear happens. So the more it moves, the more the wear is going to happen. So, quite simply, as a vehicle gets some age onto it, or it's working under harder conditions, it's going to wear, it's going to accelerate the wear on that. I suppose our country isn't the best environment for these things. We get really warm climates, we get really cold climates, we get really wet climates. Then we put all this salty stuff on the road to stop it freezing. And it all gets washed up onto the steering suspension. And it doesn't help. It really doesn't. So the other things we get quite a lot of flooding now in the UK. And big sort of puddles that you're driving through, and you think, these components are operating, they get a little bit warm in operation, they go through a big puddle, it sort of cools them back down again very quickly, and they warm up again. So that also helps to accelerate the wear on these components. So our road conditions, potholes, especially the shocks that are going into these units, have a big effect on the wear of steering and suspension components.
And how complex is the suspension geometry of a car? Things that technicians should be aware of.
Okay, so the steering suspension geometry, the complexity varies from vehicle to vehicle. We've got vehicles on the road with quite simply a McPherson strut coming down and a ball joint at the bottom, and it's just rotating through to multi-link suspension. You've got two suspension arms coming in at the top with two pivot points on, two suspension arms coming in at the bottom with two pivot points, which then basically then your steering is then done as an arc. That helps to eliminate things like bump steer. It helps with self-centering of the steering. So the complexity ranges from vehicle to vehicle. Some vehicles have, like I say, a beam axle on the back, just simply a bar going across, two trailing arms behind it, and the wheels are bolted on. As simple as that. Others have full multi-link suspension on the back. So like I say, the complexity varies from vehicle to vehicle. The more complex the steering and suspension, the more ball joints, the more wear points you're going to get. But also what it does, the more complex it is, generally the better the car will handle, and the better sort of driving experience the driver will get with that vehicle.
So in that terms, I've talked to a couple of times about wheel alignment, but when it comes to suspension checks, should garages be offering free suspension checks?
Okay, so with offering free suspension checks, that is purely down to the garage. We cannot go into a garage and say you need to be doing this or you don't need to be doing it. It's purely down to them. I know most garages that you talk to these days will carry out a complimentary sort of health check or vehicle check whilst the vehicle's in, just to make sure that the vehicle is safe. A good indicator of wear to steering and suspension is wear on the tires. So the first thing you're going to see there's some wear on the tires, whether the tires have it's towing in or towing out too much. So it's cutting the edge on the tires. From there, you would then advise the customer to say, look, there is some wear on your tyres. Would you like us to look at this a little bit deeper for you? It could be a straightforward wheel alignment. So being through a pothole, it's knocked the alignment out. Or it might be actually that there is some wear in the steering suspension. There could be a couple of ball joints that are worn, or a bush that's worn, and obviously that's affecting the steering geometry. And obviously then, so that needs to be replaced, as well as then, the tyre, and you'd advise as well a wheel alignment at the same time. And you should be doing a wheel alignment every time you replace a steering and suspension component, but that is down to the garage whether they carry that out for the customer or not. So it's purely down to the garage, but best practice is to carry out an inspection on the vehicle whilst it's in.
And just an additional question on that is suspension one of those areas? I know the answer to this one already, but is suspension one of those areas where a problem that isn't rectified sooner rather than later can cause bigger failures further down the line?
Yeah, no, definitely. So if you've got somewhere in the steering and suspension, and you carry on driving it, and I have seen them that eventually that joint will wear right through, or basically, and it'll crack the side out of the arm that it sat into, and then obviously then the wheel or that suspension unit sort of becomes disconnected from the vehicle at some point, and it can have serious consequences. So I mean, the first thing, the vehicle's going to tell you it's got a problem, whether it's down to some wear on the tires, whether it's got a knocking noise as you're driving over a couple of bumps and you can hear something knocking. The vehicle is telling you that it needs a bit of attention. And then obviously it's down to the workshop then to check through all the joints for any play, joints and bushes, etc., for any play that will cause a problem to the steering suspension units.
And should garages feel bad for profiting from the misfortune of drivers?
Okay, so so should garages feel bad for profiting from? Honest answer for me personally, no. At the end of the day, the garage is it's a business. It's open to offer a service, and it's there to basically maintain the vehicles and make sure the vehicles are safe, for customers to drive. If they find a unit that's worn and needs replacing, then yeah, that's their business. Does Mr. Tesco's feel bad when you go in there and he makes a couple of pence on every pint of milk you buy? No, he doesn't. Garages, they have big overheads. They have high costs. The wages for the staff, the investment in the equipment they need. Wheel alignment equipment these days, it's tens of thousands. I don't know the price, but it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a big investment. So yeah, they open their doors to make a profit. So no, definitely they shouldn't feel bad about it.
What does Schaeffler offer to garages in order to help with suspension and knowledge?
Okay, so Schaeffler offering sort of support really to independent garages. We do this through our Rep Expert brand. Obviously, Schaeffler, we have our products, and our fourth brand is Rep Expert, and this is where we offer the support to independent garages. We attend a lot of shows, a lot of trade events. We try to meet as many people, as many contact points with garage owners and mechanics as we can, and we want to talk to them about our steering and suspension portfolio, tell them all the benefits of it, and why why we use the materials that we do. Support, then if you go onto our Rep Expert system, our online information system, our online portal, there's lots and lots of information there. There's a lot of brochures that you can download, explaining a lot of reasoning behind our product, but also a lot around failure diagnosis as well. So if there is some wear on the tire, and you can look at the images of the tire, and then it'll give you an indication to why that tire is worn and what to check for. And the same, if there's wear to bushes, wear to ball joints, okay, why this has happened, and it supports you when you're talking to the customer as well. So the best place for our information, okay, is always on Rep Expert. It's there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's updated constantly being updated. And like I say, if we're attending shows, events, and we're with customers, you know, we're happy to talk about all our products, you know, and any questions they have. Also, we have our technical support line, which is manned five days a week. So that if there's any problems, you know, they can ring that, and we're on, you know, we're there to support the garages moving forwards, definitely. I know from our side, you know, Schaeffler is an OE supplier, you know, so basically our biggest business is designing and manufacturing new components for the vehicle manufacturers. And obviously, then we pass that quality down into the aftermarket. You know, at the end of the day, steering and suspension and the wheel bearings, which come under all the same brand under FAG, are safety critical, is what we call safety critical components. So, you know, should a wheel bearing fail, okay, it could have bad consequences, the same as a steering or suspension joint fail, okay, could have bad consequences. So, you know, from us, it's all about the quality. You know, we never want these things, you know, to fail. We put a lot of research into the bushes, okay, so all the rubber bushes that go on there, you know, when you're driving, these bushes, they need to flex a bit. Yeah, they're designed to flex, but they need to flex the right amount. So if you set the vehicle sort of steering up and you set it sort of so it's toe in, okay, and as you accelerate, the wheels then become parallel. It's because the bushes flex a little bit. So if you put like uprated bushes in there, they're not going to flex as much, or the bushes are too hard, they're not going to flex. So you set the wheel alignment correctly, but the tires still wear. So, you know, there's a lot of time is spent looking at the shore of the rubber to make sure you're getting the right amount of movement there. The ball joints themselves, the biggest item that generally fails, or the most common item that fails, is actually the rubber boot that goes over it. So we put a lot of research into that. We use a polyamide plastic now, and basically it's got the sort of flexibility of rubber, but with the strength of like a hard plastic. So, you know, we find, and there's a lot of research into the sealing on that as well. So, you know, it's not allowing any moisture out, but it's allowing it to breathe, allowing any pressure inside to escape. Yeah, you know, and also then the kit content. So, you know, if you buy one of our components, when you open the box, everything's inside that box that you need. All the you know, new nuts, new bolts, whether there's little tin shields around certain ball joints, you know, it's all in the box. So, you know, when you go to replace it, you're never stuck for something. You know, it's all there. So, you know, it's another area that, you know, Schaeffler and the FAG brand, we pride ourselves that, you know, about the kit content. And, you know, and you look at then downtime for garages, you know, they go to fit something and then the bolt is seized up. They eventually get the bolt out one way or another, and then they need to then source a new bolt. So they either, you know, where do they get? Whereas with us, it's all in the box, so, you know, they never get that problem. So, you know, so that's where we're trying to sort of also support the garages, you know, with you know, making these repairs efficient. So.